Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This week's challenge is glazed treats, and for a while I've been wanting to make a cake with a mirror glaze on it, so I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to do that. So I'm just going to be making a chocolate cake, normal buttercream frosting, and then I'll make the mirror glaze later on. So let's get started by making the cake. First, I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees. One thing I like about this recipe that I found is that it only requires one bowl, because I know whenever you make, whether it's just cookies, cakes, whatever, it's really frustrating when you have like 7 bowls and all of these dishes that you have to clean. But this one just uses one, so I have to do less dishes, less cleanup at the end, which is good. So into this large mixing bowl, I'm going to start off with 1.5 cups of sugar. And then 2 cups of flour. This is a specifically gluten-free recipe. I would assume you could just use regular flour instead if you wanted to, but the recipe actually calls for gluten-free flour. So try different substitutions at your own risk. Now I'm going to add 3/4 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, and I will be using the special dark cocoa powder because I like dark chocolate more than just like milk chocolate. So. And then it's going to be 1.5 teaspoons each of baking powder and baking soda. I'm just going to kind of guesstimate the 1/2 teaspoon. I don't feel like going and grabbing an actual 1/2 teaspoon. And then I will add a little bit of salt. And I'm just going to mix all of that together. And now into the same bowl, I'm going to add my wet ingredients. So I'm going to start out with 2 eggs, 1 cup of milk, and I'm going to be using oat milk instead of dairy milk. Okay, that one's empty, so I have to go grab another carton of milk. A 1/2 cup of, it just says vegetable oil or oil of choice, so I'm going to be using olive oil. It's really the only oil we have. We might have avocado oil as well, but we all know I'm not all for that. And then 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. And now I'm going to just mix this with my electric mixer. And then next, the last thing that I'm going to add in here is 3/4 cup of boiling water. But I haven't boiled any water, so I'm going to hop over to the stove, get that boiling, and then I'll add it in here. Shh. I boiled some water, and I'm going to put 3/4 cup in here. It stops yelling at me. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have used a plastic measuring cup to get boiling water out, but I can't do anything about that now. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mix this in with a wooden spoon. The recipe says that the hot water is supposed to activate the cocoa. Not really sure what that means, but that's what it says. I have these 8-inch cake pans that I'm gonna be putting this into, but I'm going to make sure that I grease them very, very well with this cooking spray, because if you guys watched my last, I think it was last week's, my last video when I made the mini pies, and they very, very much stuck to the pan. So I'm gonna try to avoid that with these. I don't really know, I guess I could cut parchment paper circles to put in the bottom. I might do that just to make sure, because that's what stuck with the pies, was the bottom. The sides came off fine, but the bottom was still stuck. I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna cut out some parchment circles, and then I will also spray it with cooking spray. So, be right back. Okay, I made my circles, and now I'm going to spray them with cooking spray. This is a weird cooking spray thing. All right, now I'm going to pour the batter into both of these, and I'm gonna try and evenly do it. I'm gonna fill them about half full, I think is what I'm going for. Those didn't quite get half full, but I think it'll be fine. It's not gonna be a super tall cake anyway, since it is just 2 layers. I'm not too worried about that. But I'm gonna go ahead and put these in the oven for 35 to 38 minutes. My timer is set for 35 minutes, and I will, whenever the timer goes off, I'll jump back on here and I will check them and see if I need to bake them more or if they're ready to go. See you guys in a bit. Time to test these. Ooh, those smell good. Nice and shiny on top. Ooh, they did dome quite a bit, which is not great, but maybe a couple more minutes. Yeah, I think I'll put them in here for just a few more minutes. Cakes are done, so I've pulled them out of the oven and I'm just gonna let them sit up here on top of the counter to cool for just a little bit. I've let these cool for about 10 minutes now. They're still pretty warm, but I'm gonna go ahead and take the cakes out of the pans. And then I think maybe to speed up the cooling process, I'm gonna throw them in the refrigerator, just because I do have to let these cool, and then I have to frost them, and then I have to freeze them, and then I have to do the glaze. So there's a lot of wait time in between. So I'm gonna try and speed that up a little bit by putting these in the refrigerator now. So I'll just run along the edges, and these kind of pulled away from the edges a little bit as they were baking or as they were cooling. I don't really know. So they don't look like they're gonna be stuck. And since I did that parchment paper underneath, I don't think I'm gonna have an issue with sticking. So just set this over the top. Yeah, it's hot. I don't quite wanna just hold it. Do it this way. Here. Well, the cake didn't stick to the pan, but the parchment paper did. That's funny. But they're I don't know that both of these are gonna fit on the same one. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a separate rack for the second cake. These are pretty flat. It's not gonna be a super tall cake, but oh well. All right. Just do the same thing with this one. Perfect. The one good thing, as much as I don't like that it's so domed on the top, I mean, like, it's annoying because you have to cut off a lot of it and it makes it difficult to frost it, but there's a lot of cake that I get to eat here because I'm just gonna chop off the top of it and level it out. So that's a plus. But I'm going to, should I wrap them? I don't think I should wrap them because they're still warm. I think I'm just gonna put these straight into the refrigerator. But I don't think I wanna wrap them or anything because they are still warm and I wouldn't want any of the like condensation or whatever to make it soggy and weird. So I'm gonna throw these in there. My cakes are just about cool enough, but I am going to, before I pull them out, I'm gonna go ahead and make up my frosting. This is just a basic buttercream frosting recipe. I've used it like 1,000 times, just vanilla, white, plain and dry. But it's just gonna go under the glaze, so it doesn't really matter anyways. I'm gonna start out with 2 sticks of butter. It says to use unsalted. All we have is salted, so I'm just gonna use that and then not put any additional salt into it. They're also supposed to be softened, but these were refrigerated, so I'm gonna stick them in the microwave for just a little bit. I don't wanna melt them, obviously, but just to soften them up a little bit. I guess the wrapper's going in there too. I'm struggling today, guys. I'm going to use my electric mixer and beat this softened butter until it's nice and creamy. To sift in 3 cups of powdered sugar. Sometimes, let's be honest, I skip the sifting step in a lot of recipes. I do that a lot with frosting, but I figure I might as well, since the internet is seeing this, I might as well do it right. Yeah, don't fall. This always takes so long, that's why I skip it. I'm getting powdered sugar everywhere. Before I use my mixer to mix this, I'm gonna just gently do it with a spoon, because if you put it in with just the powdered sugar before it mixes it all, it's gonna go everywhere, and I'd rather not have it all in my face. I have enough makeup on my face, I don't think I need powdered sugar. And then last, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of milk, again using oat milk. You can also do this with like heavy cream or half and half or whatever, but we don't have any of that, so we're gonna stick with oat milk. And then just mix it again. Wait, I forgot to add my vanilla. Hold on. I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of vanilla. Completely forgot it, and it was sitting right there in front of me. Cool. Now we're gonna mix it all together. And now from here, you really just go based on consistency. If it's too thick, you're gonna add some more of the milk or heavy cream. If it's too thin, you add more powdered sugar. But I think mine is pretty good. And like I said, this is just gonna be underneath the glaze. So it really doesn't matter as much. I'm not gonna be needing this to be used for like decoration. It doesn't necessarily have to be particularly exciting. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull my cakes out of the refrigerator and get started on frosting them. Before I frost these, I'm obviously going to want to level them because they are a little bit uneven, but I'm not gonna quite, like I don't want them to be completely straight across because that's gonna be taking off a lot of the height, and I don't want my cake to be like this, you know, this thin. So I'm just gonna level it out for the most part, but then I'll just put plenty of frosting around it and it'll look fine. So I have my cake leveler here that I'm gonna try to use. Sometimes this doesn't work. It works better when they're warm. I should have thought about that earlier, but once they get cold, the wire just doesn't quite cut through them super well. So I'm gonna try. If that doesn't work, I'll just grab a knife. Come on. No, don't do that. Don't pull my cake apart. This is not working. Yeah, we're gonna grab a knife. Goodness. Well, it took part of it off, but it also started to like tear apart the other parts of my cake. I'd like to keep some of it on there. I don't know if this wire just isn't like tight, like taut enough or what, but it just doesn't work super well. Let's try a piece. I'm curious. That's good, and it's very moist too. That's very good. All right, I'm gonna get a knife and finish this. Try not to cut myself. Somebody's phone keeps ringing. Don't know whose that is. It's not mine. I think that's about good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. So just clean away some of the crumbs and do the same thing with the next cake, but I'm not even gonna mess with, honestly, I really should just throw this away. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe you are supposed to do it whenever the cake is warm. I don't know. But I could just never get it to work. Comment below if you guys know how to actually use these, because I obviously don't. Almost got my fingers. I think I'm just gonna leave it like that. It's still kind of sloped, but I just don't want to cut off too much because it's not already going to be a thin cake, and I just don't want to make it even thinner. So I have this little cake, what do they call these? Cake board that I'm just going to stack these on top of. This one is a little bit rougher, doesn't look quite as nice, so I'm going to go ahead and put this one on the bottom, and I am going to put a little bit of frosting on the bottom as well to kind of help it stick. So just a little smear. I don't know if this actually works, but I took a cake decorating class one time a long time ago. That's what they told us to do. So I don't feel like it would work because like with royal icing, it hardens. Buttercream doesn't really do that, but I don't know. I do it anyways. So just slide that on there. And the top cake I'm going to put on upside down, and then that way we get the nicer edges from the bottom of the cake, from the cake pan. Those will be what's on top instead of the weird halfway leveled, halfway not leveled stuff on top. So I'll just throw some frosting here in the middle. I need to get an offset spatula because I just have a flat one and I always end up dragging the handle in the frosting. So I need to do that eventually, but I don't make enough cakes for that to be a really big concern. So. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stack this other cake on top. Ooh, those are really slanted still. It's okay, we'll be okay. Just make sure it's centered. All right. And now I'm just going to frost the whole entire cake. I don't have a turntable or anything. It's another thing I would like to get, but I just have a ramekin that I'm gonna set the cake on top of so that I can get the sides. Not quite the most stable of decorating stations, but we're gonna make it work. This is just a random thing I found in our kitchen. I don't really know what it is, but I'm using it to kind of smooth out the sides because it seems to work a lot better than just my little spatula. So. Maybe the ramekin wasn't such a good idea. I don't really know how much smoother I'm gonna be able to get this to be. Goodness, I set that right in the frosting. So I think I'm just gonna call this good. It's not a super thick layer, but it'll work. It's a little rough, but it'll be fine. So I'm just gonna put this into here. It's not really smooth, but I'm just gonna go with it because I could sit here all day and try and smooth it out, and I've got other things to do. So I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna do it that way. I'm going to improvise yet again, and I'm going to take this little plate, put it upside down here, and then that way the cake is off, it's not just right on top of the cake holder, so I can actually grab it and pick it up when it's time to glaze it without getting my fingers all in the frosting like I just did when I tried to grab it just now. Right, make sure it's centered so that it doesn't fall and die. And there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and stick this in the freezer. It's supposed to be completely frozen before I glaze it, so I don't know if that's gonna be a couple of hours, but yeah, it could be longer than that, I really don't know. But yeah, so I will come back whenever it's frozen, I'll make the glaze, and then we will glaze the cake. So I will see you guys in a couple of hours, my time, a couple of seconds, vlog time. Maybe I won't if I drop the cake. Then I won't see you guys at all because I'll be crying and won't film the rest of the video. All right, my cake has been in the freezer for a couple of hours, like four? I don't know. It's been in there for a while, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started on my glaze. So I'm gonna start off with some unflavored gelatin. And it's gonna be 2 tablespoons, which I'm gonna guess is maybe 2 packets. I'm gonna put the gelatin in a bowl with a 1/4 cup of water, and then I'm gonna let it bloom. So I'll put the water in there first, and then 2 tablespoons of unflavored gelatin. Okay, so one of these packets is not quite a tablespoon, so it might use 3 of them. Pull out a 1/3 little envelope here. Yeah, that did use exactly 3 packets. And then I'm just gonna give this a really quick whisk just to get it all mixed together. And then I'm just gonna set this to the side and let it bloom for a couple of minutes. And then the rest of it I'm going to make in this saucepan. So it's going to be 1½ cups of white sugar and 3/4 cup of water. And last is going to be 2/3 cup of sweetened condensed milk. And I'm just going to turn my stove on, just on like medium low, and just bring these up to a simmer. Now I'm going to turn my heat down to low, and then I'm going to add in 2 cups or a whole bag of white chocolate chips. Wait, no, hold up. I should read my recipe before I do things. Well, actually, I was going to add my gelatin first before the white chocolate chips. So let's do that. I hope I didn't just mess this up. So now, this is so weird. Gelatin is weird. So now I'm gonna put the gelatin into here. And then I'll mix that in, and then I'll add the rest of the white chocolate chips. Whoops. Is the gelatin supposed to be in a big clump when it blooms? I've used gelatin before, but it's been a while. And so I don't really remember what it's supposed to look like. Well, the clump of gelatin is dissolving, so I guess it's gonna be okay. All right, now I'm going to turn my heat down to low and add the chocolate chips. And I just turned it down to low just because I want the white chocolate chips to melt, but I don't necessarily want it to simmer anymore. So hopefully that will not keep it too hot. But it does need to be warm enough to melt the chocolate, so just gonna stir that in. Should I do this with a whisk? That might work better. I don't know, is it worth the whisk though? Looks like it's pretty much melted. And now it's time to color it. So I think I'm gonna go, I'm not centered. Hold on, guys. That's better. I think I'm gonna go for kind of a pastel colors theme, since Mother's Day is this weekend. Actually, it'll be tomorrow for those of you watching. Happy Mother's Day. But I'm just gonna go with some pastel, springy, girly colors, kind of in celebration of Mother's Day, I guess. I have 5 bowls set out here, and I think I'm gonna do pink, I don't know, pink is gonna be main. I'm gonna do pink, blue, purple, yellow, and green are gonna be my 5 colors. So pink is gonna be a main one. So maybe pink, purple, blue, green, and yellow. But they're all gonna be very light, delicate colors. I'm gonna start, I'm just gonna use this measuring cup and put some of this into each of the bowls. is a very sticky mess. And now I'm just gonna add my colors. And I am using gel food coloring and not liquid. I never use liquid food coloring. Okay, that's very, very bright pink. Well, it's gonna work. No, you're not supposed to be. Well, I guess it'll look okay. It's not quite as pastel as I was wanting it. But I don't have like pink food coloring, I just have red. So I thought that I could do it just by adding 1 drop, but apparently that's not the case. Okay, and now I'm going to check their temperatures, and I want to pour it whenever these are at 90 degrees. So I just have a candy thermometer that I'm just gonna be using. The glazes in the smaller bowls are about 90 degrees, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and mix them all together. I've seen a couple of different ways to do this next part. Some people alternate the colors directly on the cake, and then I've also seen it where you put them all in a bowl and like swirl it together and then pour all of that over the cake. So that's what I'm gonna try and do. So I have this glass mixing bowl. It has a pouring spout thing, so I think that'll make it easier. So I'm gonna start with my predominant colors, which are going to be the pink and the purple. So I guess I just alternate them. I'm gonna go ahead and take my spoons out. I'm really hoping all of my colors don't just entirely run together here, but I'll start with some purple, and then some pink, and some purple, and some pink, a little bit more purple, a little bit more pink, and then the other ones are just gonna get drizzled on top. I'm just gonna kind of drizzle it across. Actually, I think I can just do this pouring it from the ramekin. And my mom did ask to come in and watch me whenever I put the glaze on. So after I finish this, I'm gonna go grab the cake, grab my mom, and pour the glaze. I'm excited to see how this works. All right, I'm gonna go grab the cake. All right, here's my cake. It has been frozen. It's been freezing for like a couple of hours. Dad, you wanna watch me glaze? Come here. All right, my dad does not wanna watch. He's got other things to do apparently, so we're gonna pour the glaze. I've drizzled all of my colors and things in here. So I'm gonna start pouring it around the outsides, and then I'm gonna pour it into the middle. Yes, get to where you can see.
Oh, cool, Emily. Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh no! There's a spot. The colors did kind of run together. Maybe if I would have done like white as my base and then done the colors around that, maybe that would have worked better. And now I'm just gonna let it drip off for like 10 minutes, and then I'll scrape it off around the sides, and I'll have a mirror glazed cake. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. There's still a hole back there.
I don't see the hole.
It's just a little one. Probably gonna have it all in my hair. All right, well my camera battery is about to die, so I'm gonna shut that off and go charge it, and then I'll come back after it's all done its thing. It's been about 10 minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my spatula and just like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do with it, but I think I'm just supposed to kind of scrape it off on the bottom, just because of all the little drips that are still kind of hanging on. Oh goodness, that's very stretchy and sticky, very sticky. And there we go, a mirror glazed cake. Very sticky mirror glazed cake. There's still a couple little drips, but I think it looks pretty good. Very happy with how that turned out. My hands are all sticky now. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a happy Mother's Day tomorrow. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the things. And also make sure you come back next week for the next video. And I'll see you guys then. Bye.